It's Tuesday, August 15th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Quinn, and with me is the other co-host, Mike Shalau. What's up?
Not much. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Was out of town for a bit, but I'm back now. Back in the high life again. As
Eating wings, drinking Riesling.
Yep. Was doing both those things. Yeah, that's about what I did. Had some Mad Fritz and David Arthur, Mad Fritz beers and David Arthur wines.
Nice. Shout out to Niall.
Yep, those were very nice. So yeah, good times. Drinking some local East Coast beers.
You have any Jenny while you were up there?
I had a Genesee. I brought one back. They have a Helles. They have like a new series of like, I don't know what it's like, classics, and it was Genesee Helles. I drank two of them. I don't really remember. I remember it being okay, but I brought at least one can back. I should have, if I had remembered, I would have brought it. So here, let's. Should we do this now? I mean,
I don't know.
I only brought four glasses. Oh well. Sorry, Mike.
You can drink out yours out of the can then.
I can. Won't. What are we opening here?
It appears to be the best beer.
My favorite,
the best IPA in America this year, at least.
Yeah, I mean that's on. You can't really argue with that, right?
You technically can't this year.
Yeah, you can't.
We have our own opinions about it, which happen to align with that, but. This year, technically, it's the best IPA in the world.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
And it is
Headhunter. So, yes. What's up with you, Mike?
I was up in, northeastern Michigan, like way up there. Like in the Pointer Finger.
Okay.
Like way up on Lake Huron for a wedding over the weekend.
Whoa.
Which was fun.
How long did it take to get up there?
A long time.
And it was fun.
It was fun.
Oh,
it was
okay.
very beautiful. We were like less than a mile from the actual water and stuff.
All right.
There's a state
Were you
park
in
there.
Rogers City, Michigan?
No, I was in Harrisville, Michigan. My fiance's college friend's family has had a farm up there for 150 years or something like that. So she was getting married on the farm, or she's already married, but they're having a celebration for their wedding on the farm.
It's a long time.
Yeah, went to Alpina Brew House up there. A little research and development. It tasted like 1996.
Okay.
Good. Beer's fine.
Michigan, you could say it tasted like Michigan.
I didn't want to.
When you say it tastes like 1996, you mean there was like crystal malt in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that literally like all you meant? Like,
No,
that there was crystal malt in it?
I ordered an IPA, but they were out of the IPA, and because I wanted something with crystal malt and like oniony and sea hops and stuff. But then I decided, it's a lot like that. A wee heavy. I never see a wee heavy on the menu ever. So I just ordered a wee heavy, and it. I hope they don't listen to the show, but it wasn't that great.
Okay.
But not necessarily anything wrong with it, but it was thick, and sweet, which I guess those beers are supposed to be. So
I don't know about that, but
yeah, it was. When people
good
go to
wee
a
heavy
restaurant
should
you
be
like,
thick
and
and
it's
sweet.
like, well, what did you? They hate it, and you're like, well, what did you order? You're like, yeah, you ordered all the worst things. You should order the good things. I feel like that's what I did to that place. Though they did have a 12% Belgian Golden Ale that you can only have 2 of, so I should have just ordered one of those.
Man, visions of fusel alcohols.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Well, that's what I mean. Like it's like kind of like brew pub vibe of like a 12% Belgian gold, and where they're like, it's dangerous, that kind of thing.
Right.
No one said that to me, but you could see someone saying that to their.
Right. They serve it in a shaker pint.
Yeah, we had a good time. Food was good.
Good.
Nice little spot. It was in a historic building up there.
Cool.
Looks like they spent a lot of money putting a brewery into it.
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah. And then I drank some Oberon as well.
Yeah.
What you do.
Classic.
They had a keg of Oberon at the wedding. So
Yeah.
I just drank a bunch of it.
I'm trying to think what I got up there. The Wegmans was fairly stocked with beers. Oh, I bought, since it was nice and hot up there, and
You're talking. We weren't on the same trip up there.
No, I was in the Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
So I got the new Sierra Nevada Fest beer.
Nice.
Because it is October. It is August. I mean.
Yeah, you can drink a Fest beer. It's like pizza bagels. You can drink a Fest beer anytime.
Sure, I guess.
You don't want a Fest beer?
It was
anytime?
good. No, and we crushed it faster than most of the other beers. We brought up. I got a lot of also pale ale that we brought up with us. So drinking a lot of Sierra Nevada, but then got some other half. Got some Ithaca
Did you get
Flower Power. That was pretty good. Hadn't had that one in a
thought
while.
about that beer in a long time?
Right. Yeah.
They used to show up in a lot of like the Brewers Association books on like certain styles of beer because they were like an early brewery. So it'd be like, how do you make Flanders Red? Well, the guy at Ithaca says you do it like this. It's like, I don't know if all that's correct.
Yeah, so we were both away, and now we're here. So you did not get to the Great Taste then, huh? Me either.
I did not.
All right.
I haven't been in a long time.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Not a big beer fest guy, to be honest.
Okay, it's a good one, though.
Yeah, it is the best one that I've been to.
Oh, better than Firestone Walker Invitational, huh?
Say it. Say it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Anyway,
Well, yeah,
we have some guests.
we do.
We should probably introduce. You want to introduce our guests?
I think don't they introduce themselves? Oh no, they've both been on.
They've both been on. Yeah.
To my left, and I think the senior member of the panel today.
Oh,
For sure.
Frank?
Well, I guess they're both to my left. If we go in a circle.
Although we could go by.
Long whose hair.
I
is
just
longer.
got a trim, so you got me beat, buddy.
It's my brother in dust, Eric.
Hello,
Kapraun.
what
How
up?
are you doing?
What's up, man?
Hello.
What's going on?
Nothing.
How's softball?
Good. Playoffs start on Thursday at Wells Park, which I'm really excited about.
What seed are you guys?
Oh, come on.
Number 2 seed.
Is the team I saw you lose to? Is that the number 1 seed?
Yes,
Yeah, they were good.
they're very good.
What brewery are they associated with?
Gannon's Pub. Yeah. Yeah, best of luck to everybody in the league. The playoffs is when everything gets really real, so we're really excited about it. I think we've got a good team.
Yeah, keep going into it. Let's
Good,
talk.
Well,
good
I went-
defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone's at full strength. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
No injuries this year so far. Which
Okay, your
is a
finger's
blessing.
holding up.
Yeah, last year was injury riddled season, so happy to have full health as we head into the playoffs and hopefully into a fall season as well, right down the street.
Fall ball.
Wow.
Ideally, yeah. So
Red Ivy.
I went to see Eric play, and I saw something I'd never seen in 16-inch softball before, which was the umpire not allowing anyone on
yeah,
either
that
team
was
to drink beer.
That was that was not ideal. And like this probably says more about me than anything. But I genuinely don't remember a game that I didn't like drink while I was playing. And
Is that why you broke your hand? Because you just wouldn't put your beer down.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think that kind of threw everyone off kilter.
He
But
wouldn't let anyone.
no,
drink beer.
he said if he saw, I mean, in
Sure, it's not allowed on the park.
yeah,
I'm sure.
it's technically not allowed.
Has he been to the Little League games?
Right, I know.
right. I mean,
Those kids are getting wasted.
Yeah, they come off and they're in the dugout and they're slamming beers. No, yeah, it was kind of weird, but
at Wells.
at Wells, yeah, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. It was just bizarre.
It was just
Well, I mean,
one
it's only-
ref.
you guys
or
got
one,
your-
yeah.
One
So like,
You got romped.
Weird
like,
flag.
they
I saw
really
that.
they're really coming down on you guys, and if I see you doing drinking, game over, you're forfeited. And for me, it's like I don't care about the forfeit as much as like I'd live for summertime and being outside and running around. So the idea that would get taken away from me just because like to crack a beer, I was like, that's not really what I'm out here for.
that
So
I'm offended. I'm offended.
That's our taxpayer dollars at work
It's also proud.
What is-
No, it's not. For the ump.
for the park.
Oh,
yeah,
the park. The
absolutely
park, but not
for the ump.
The
Yeah.
ump is part of the league.
Which is through the park district.
No.
Oh, never mind.
Not through the park
No, it's
district.
not.
Private company.
Yeah.
Oh.
Private company.
Wow.
But the point
Big
being,
softball really got
But
this
that's
guy.
why I'm incensed is because he has no authority. Like, what other law is he going to enforce? Like, is he going to enforce other laws
That's a good
and
point.
kick people out for it?
I did see him writing tickets after the
Right.
Parking
exactly.
tickets. You put the vest
It's
on.
like,
So the thumbs down emoji was on my car after I.
what if someone litters in the park? They're gonna forfeit the game?
That'd be a good tell him someone's littering, give him to run away, hit a few beers real quick.
The funniest part of it
Play
was
better.
there literally was a fence from a different field obstructing our game, and he's like, I mean, you can't do anything about that. I'm like, they're putting it up right now. Just tell them to wait. And he's like, no.
Well, there wasn't even a game happening there.
No, I know. It was for the next day. I was
Yeah.
like, this is crazy, but it's been a fun summer playing softball.
Another thing, and we should get to actually beer stuff pretty soon.
Shout out to Wild Goose.
Just kind of
Is,
stuff.
Boston Joe. I was up in the Finger Lakes with Boston Joe, and
Finger Lakes Joe
his
now.
kids' Little League team, the age 1 up, is the one that was in the Little League World Series. So we were watching
Nice.
them on ESPN, and like his little buddies were running around on TV.
So I watched a Little League World Series game on Friday. The only one I've seen all season.
Who was it?
I don't remember. I think it was Pittsburgh
Snakes.
versus somebody.
So Pennsylvania, you mean?
Maybe. I'm sorry. I don't remember who was
Mid-Atlantic?
playing, but the team
gotta
pitched a no-hitter through 6 innings,
yeah,
and
I
I
saw
think
this.
you have to stop pitching at that point. So then it was a 0-0 going into extra innings, and the team that was pitching the no-hitter lost on a walk-off. It was the first hit of the game.
First hit the other team.
Yeah. It was, and that was the end of their season. Like
Yeah.
that's a really
Yep.
knife to the heart.
Yep. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost.
But
At
you
the
know
end,
what?
they-
They're
yeah.
so young, and they have so much failure in front of them.
Oh, exactly.
It's basically all downhill from there for those kids.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even make it to the Little League World Series, but that was Little League was probably the high point of my life.
Yeah.
At least achievement wise, I got so many trophies because my dad would coach a lot of the teams, so all the extra trophies came in with us.
There you go.
And then I would put them all up. People come over in our basement, like, "Wow, whoa!" I'd be like 9 of the same trophy.
Yeah. We have another guest. Do you want to introduce our second guest, our
This
second
is
panel member?
a good friend of mine and my landlord. It's Kevin P. Carey from Begyle Brewing. How you
Hello.
doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well.
What's up, dude?
I'm not too much. I'm
I'll
also
get you that
back.
rent soon. Don't worry.
Where are you back from?
I'm back from. I was in Ireland.
Okay.
For a
How many
bit.
times do you go there a year?
Gosh,
Like, a week?
how many times a year? It's my second time in the last year, and it's
twice.
my 8th
Okay.
time overall.
Right.
So-
So, I mean,
If you go 9 times, you get citizenship.
oh,
I thought you were going to say the
that's
10th
cool.
time free.
No, that's actually not true. So don't
Yeah.
quote me on that. But yeah,
And you go on the western side, right?
yep, Galway, the Wild Atlantic Way.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife taught or teaches us a study abroad program for Michigan State University, and I kind of just hang out.
It's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. How long were you there for?
we were there for 3 weeks.
Whoa. Nice.
Awesome. Yep. Drank some really good Eyinger Helles
Oh.
Nice.
that was freshly bottled, and just walked over.
I thought you were
from
going to
Germany.
say Guinness. I thought you were going to say.
I did have some Guinness. Yeah.
Okay.
Say they walked it over from Germany.
Yeah, it was that fresh. We're just like, hey, we're gonna bring over these cases, these plastic cases of 16 ounce, 500 ml bottles. Bombers are hot,
Oh, yeah. They're hot
especially for lagers.
those returnables.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
it was
sweet.
delicious though. It was maybe one of the best lagers I've ever had.
Nice.
All right. Well, I was just going to ask if there's anything you had lately that you enjoyed. So there you go.
It was really on my
Eyinger
mind.
Helles.
Yeah,
Yes. Anyone else have a beer that they've enjoyed lately? I'm trying to think.
I named a couple of them.
Okay.
I am having this.
Wait, the ones that you said you didn't like?
I said, I had some Oberon.
Oh, you had some Oberon.
okay.
I didn't know if that's
I had some
the-
Alaskan Amber Ale because that's what that's what the grocery store had.
significant presence in Michigan for Alaska Brewing Company.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm having the Eyinger John Hunder.
Your 100?
Yep, that's what I said, right?
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's not as fresh as the Eyinger I had in Ireland.
Probably
not.
maybe not. I don't know.
Close. Was this walked over?
It was walked in by a delivery man.
I don't think you can walk to Ireland.
Yeah, you can. You obviously haven't been to Ireland.
Yeah, I guess not. I haven't. It's
Well,
true.
he's been there 8 times, so I'm going to believe him.
And after the 9th time, he gets a free sub sandwich, I think.
Exactly. Free Irish breakfast.
sausage roll, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay, so we've gone through that, and we've got a big upper of a show today. So,
Wait, we're not going to talk about this?
yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh, Headhunter I recently had. That was good.
I'm having it right now.
It's so good.
You said that last time you were on.
I know.
Yeah,
I just want to reiterate to everybody.
yeah.
We were actually just talking about some really delicious West Coast IPA from Lake Zurich from a brewery called Roundtable that was
Yes.
delicious. That I forget the name of, but they just put out something about something
Hamburger?
something burger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
A
try
burger,
that.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But
I know.
delicious.
They're starting to get a little bit of a buzz with some of their pale ales and their IPAs and stuff like that.
They've
So
been killing it for a while.
Lane's great. I think the beer coming out of that brewery is so underrated, and I think that Chris, it seems like you guys here have been like real flag wavers for them, which I think is awesome.
yeah, I was talking to one
They
of the guys
deserve
who
it.
was doing the delivery, and how old is it?
You wouldn't know.
I think
It was a month old.
I think that
Is
this
it on there?
Headhunter is 7.3
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
or
Seven-
or 2.3.
Oh, so it's older than
I was spilling.
older
Sorry,
than I
sorry
thought.
about that.
Okay. Anyway,
Guess I need to get glasses.
they were talking about how they are specifically going for a like a combo of like a West Coast what did Green Cheek call that beer? We can get a knife, then you can cut it off if you want.
I got it.
What was the green? What style of IPA was Green Cheek calling their IPAs when we were out there? Were they San Diego style or something like that?
I don't remember.
I think that's what he was saying they were going for because they had heard like how like Green Cheek makes a certain style of hoppy beer, and they were kind of inspired by some of those beers that Green Cheek makes, and that's the specific type of West Coast beer that they're going for, which isn't like the port brewing like that San Diego, but what did they call it? I forget what it was, but yeah, like a SoCal IPA or something like that. So why don't you tell everyone what you're doing? Because they hear sounds
Nothing.
and they know that you're...
I'm peeling the shrink wrap off of the Headhunter can.
And why are you doing that?
Because I got some pictures from a friend who brought some back recently of what was underneath it.
Oh,
and
nice.
It made me chuckle. So, yeah, this one has it too. These are shrink wrapped inside of Great Lakes Agave Twist Lemon Lime Ranch water cans. And the person who sent it to me just sent me a picture of this can with the beer poured next to it and said, "This is Headhunter." And I was so confused by what he
Yeah.
was trying to tell me. But it seems that the Agave Twist hard seltzer did not.
The last time I had it, it was some old like wheat cans from, I think it was from Fatheads. So
Like, just repurposed
yeah, I think they're just like F it. Let's
cans.
just-
Sleeve it up.
It's a can's a can.
Right.
Sleeve to sleeve.
Yeah.
Don't matter.
Yeah.
It's what's on the inside that counts.
Right. And if you can get it for cheap, that's what we're trying to think about. Like, were they getting these for cheap, or were they not able to get their own cans, and that's why they had to do it?
It is wild that they don't do printed cans.
Yeah.
I mean, they make a lot of beer. They make a lot of this beer in particular.
And they have big facilities.
right.
Right.
It's not like they're like in a densely populated metro area where you can't store the cans.
I have an idea why. I just thought about this. Because they know they're not going to go through enough cans before the brand refresh that is
That actually,
coming up.
so instead they decided to invest in their own shrink wrapper.
Exactly.
And they probably got a screaming good deal on those.
Right.
Right. That's what I was
What's
just. Yeah.
what's the possibility that they do the brand refresh and we don't even notice?
It's already happened.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
yeah. Maybe this is the brand
I
refresh.
feel like they had some wording at the taste that I saw that said best IPA in the world.
yeah.
It's award winning.
Yeah, I know, but
It's like Chris
that's why
Quinn.
I'm saying it's like maybe that's just a brand refresh.
The brand refresh.
from
Just upping
award
it.
winning to
The
best in
best.
the world.
Quoting Chris Quinn.
Yeah. Beer Temple podcast.
I liked it when they used to have like the number of medals that the beers had won on the labels.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an insane amount.
Chill out, man. Have a beer. That's what
I
it
agree.
says on
They stole that from Charlie Papazian.
Kind of. I mean, they've modified it,
Yeah.
right?
From chill out, have a homebrew, or relax, have a homebrew.
Relax.
To chill out, man, have a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that marketing genius we're looking forward to.
Are they going to make a session version of Headhunter?
They probably do.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
should.
Yeah, they have sessions.
What do you think Benjamin Danklin is?
Double.
Yeah, it's probably a double. I forget what it was.
I forget. Well, they have an Imperial Headhunter now.
Oh, yeah, brand extensions.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff to talk about. I wanted to get to it. It's going to be a bit of a bummer. It's stuff that we've talked about partially in the past, but there's just like a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we've had a segment that I've called comings and goings, like, you know, what's been bought, what's opening up, you know, a new facility, and who's leaving, and stuff like that. So this is going to be a good portion of this show will be comings and goings. So well, let's do the kind of goings first, and then there's a very weird kind of coming at the end.
Always is.
Yes. So we've got Anchor, which we, you know,
That's in the Cummings.
yeah, that's all. That's going. So we've had Anchor.
There's a new update that they're trying to raise money so that the union can buy the brand. Have you seen this?
I did. I mean, I also heard that it would cost. It's like the building is going to be $80 million to keep it.
Oh, yeah.
brewing.
There's no way they're
Whoops.
going to be able to, like, buy the real estate.
Right.
But
So one thing I forgot about was that Stone Brewing was bought by Sapporo for $165 million. They have breweries on. They still have the East Coast brewery. Why
so.
wouldn't Sapporo? Obviously, like Anchor's iconic to California, but why wouldn't they just slide that into Stone
Right.
and keep the brand alive? Like, yeah, the rent in that building, or you know, the real estate is worth, you know, infinitely more than the brand will ever be. So why wouldn't you just slide the brand?
I mean, the sales must not be there, and it must be more valuable for them just to write it down and not pay taxes on some other thing that they.
Yeah. Or they
making
just
money
didn't
on.
feel like dealing with it, or
Yeah.
they didn't want to have to. You know, what do you do with all the people? Let's just get rid of them. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, that's me, obviously. So that's one of the things, and we can definitely come back to that. And then we talked a little bit about the AB divesting, was it 8 brands, I think, to Tilray.
Yeah.
And there was a pretty an interesting interview with the Tilray CEO, who sees everything as up and to the right, according to him, which was kind of interesting.
Very optimistic man reading that.
Yes, very optimistic.
One of the articles I read about them was like, but don't worry, Tilray is not profitable. It's a startup. They had like $2 billion or some absurd amount of like a loss last year or something. I was just reading it, and I was like, we're glossing over this. Like, they're not profitable. The weed segment of their business is not profitable.
That's what reading that article.
Cash
But they're a
transaction
weed, right?
to get all these breweries is kind of funny to me.
The reading. Well, they had $84 million in cash, so someone's giving them money. But reading that article, it was very obvious that this was the thing where he's like, well, like the weed thing isn't moving as quickly in America as we thought it was going to. We got to make money somehow. So he bought these to have like revenue. It seems like.
And,
Yeah, so
and strategic, right? Because they own a brewery, and they already owned a brewery in Colorado.
They
Yeah.
own a distillery in Colorado. I don't think they owned a brewery in Colorado already.
Yeah,
What brewery they owned in
It was
Colorado?
in Fort Collins. It was
Oh, right,
originally
right.
Fort Collins Brewery, and then that became like a Red Truck Brewing Company, and they bought that. And they were making Sweetwater out of there.
So they said they bought. Part of it was they wanted Blue Point. Originally, they just wanted Breckenridge and Blue Point to expand Montauk. That hot brand Montauk, we all know, needs more space. Mm-hmm. And then they just kept. It seems like AB just kept being like, "Do you want this one too? What about this one? Will you take Shock Top?" It seems like there's like, I guess, all right, I'll throw it on there. We got $84 million to spend.
But now they have they have a lot of employees now.
Well,
Like
also
800?
they're like I think I read they're like one of the top 5
Yeah,
like
fifth.
brewing company or fifth, and like one of the top companies like
Yeah.
in America now because
I
all
mean,
the
I would-
like capacity and brands that they own.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, and I wonder how much they paid for all of them. So
Breckenridge built. We were out there right after they opened it up, and they paid that Littleton brewery that they moved into. They spent like $45 million just alone on that facility. So for $85 million, they got half of it covered just in the cost of that one
Right.
brewery. And I got to imagine all the expansion at Blue Point and at 10 Barrel. 10 Barrel was growing so fast, and they probably spent a ton of money. So it's like they probably got those breweries on. I mean, we've been looking at equipment, like things are going for 30 cents on the dollar. And that's what this deal kind of feels like they got. I mean, for facilities, they got a great deal.
Yeah, and he also said something that I was kind of thinking ABI was doing when they like put this portfolio together, which was sprinkling geographic breweries all over the country to be able to like have a nationwide craft presence, which they don't really need anymore because of how effective Goose Island has grown. And he actually said as much, where he's like, we added 10 Broke, we didn't have anything in the Pacific Northwest, but now we can have a national beer distribution channels or footprints.
right.
So
Right, and I know Doug Valicki was going online talking about how one of his takeaways from this was how, when a big brewery buys a small brewery, the heart and soul of that brewery will go with it. Like, you can't just assume that it's going to stick around and that this is a result of that, and that things will kind of flow downhill from there. I mean, I think he's right about that, but I don't think that AB, I mean, maybe they were ignorant of that, but I just think, as I said a little bit last week, to me it seems like their old playbook, which I know that everyone said it's different this time because they've learned. Everyone but me, who was saying, "You guys really believe them?" But
no one believed them. What are you talking about?
a lot of I remember.
John Hall believed them because he also had their money.
I mean, all the people on the beer advocate forums were like, "No, man, they've learned it's different this time,"
an old-timey
and then when
sentence.
they say it, all the early purchases have said that they want to buy us because they don't want to change anything, So, but anyway,
They were saying those in press releases, but was any people were on beer advocate forums saying they're not going to change anything?
we have to believe them. This is what they're saying. I know this person. I was
That
talking
sounds
to
like a
so
plant.
and so. I don't think that it was that coordinated back then. It was a stupid ass forum.
Yeah, and it's just people
I-
being
yeah.
people being optimistic.
Well, because it was the first time too,
Yeah.
especially with Goose. But I think in the past they would buy a whole bunch of brands, let them kind of sink or swim, and the ones that swim they keep, and the ones that sink they just would kill off as a brand. I mean, now at least they could get a little bit of money from it, and it seemed to me like it was just how stuff is going. The market's matured. We don't see these things, doing a big turnaround.
Just think about this though. How has it been for AB this year? Pretty bad.
Right.
Pretty bad. Not necessarily for their craft brands, but
You're talking about like Bud Light.
we think about
mostly,
just
right?
Bud Light, which is a pretty big beer for them. Was the biggest, most popular beer in America. Like, I don't know if anyone's been paying attention. It's down so massively
Yeah.
that I'm sure when they were like, "Oh man, we can like
But Bush is also up.
Bush
because-
Bush Light."
Yeah,
I know.
because
I mean, that's
people
the
don't
irony.
get like,
That's the irony, of
Miller's
course.
up, Bush is up, everything else is up.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Coors
it's
is,
temporary.
yeah,
And not technically in America, but in the world, AB also owns Modelo.
Modelo,
So,
right?
Oh yeah, like outside.
so
of
the thing that's
North
replaced
America.
it
Yep,
is,
right.
is not.
Yep.
Money's going in the same pockets, but
Of
It
course.
definitely like there. I mean, I think some of the stats that were quoted in the Brewbound article, like those brands that they bought were some of them were suffering like massive losses, like Shock Top, and I think like
Red.
out of all of them, there was only one that was like, I think it was like 10 barrels, like lager was the only one that was like really doing well. So it is a little bit like the experiment was, can these stand the test of, larger distribution? Looks like it didn't. The ones that did, Elysian, it seems like it's doing fine with Space Dust. And then Goose is their other national. There's a third one that I'm forgetting that's doing.
Well, they have Wicked
Okay.
Weed, but it's not national.
Yeah, but they're doing
Gold
okay.
Road,
They're over
maybe.
100,000 barrels. But yeah, you looked at all those brands, and it definitely was like, these are the ones that didn't kind of work out. It kind of felt like, and to their credit, they got $85 million, which is, I believe, double what was paid for Ballast Point when they sold to Kings and Convicts.
yeah, we're re-liberated. I mean, it also seems so much now, looking back on it, that their strategy was a lot of just like do whatever we can to stop the bleeding, and then we'll figure it out once like the scab starts. Like that. We just need all these craft breweries because we're losing market share.
To
And-
craft.
Yeah, to craft.
And
So
then
we'll
now-
just get all these, and then as soon as that slows down, well, we don't need these anymore. So it doesn't matter that we, are losing a bunch of money on it. We effectively stopped losing market share, and now we're just moving on to the
They
next
probably
thing.
did what they needed to do, which was, I think, help hasten the slowdown of craft. I think a lot of like AB, Heineken, I think a lot of those big breweries controlling the sets, controlling a lot of that stuff hindered potential growth or breakout growth of some of the U.S.
It
breweries.
put a cap on the
And forced them to sell too, I think, in a way. Like a lot of them sold because they saw that there was a ceiling that these big guys were kind of putting on them, or just it was so much harder.
right. And when someone not to speak for you, but when you opened your brewery, when you opened Begyle, which was like 10 years ago, it wasn't inconceivable that you guys would sell beer at the airport or something like that, right? That lane was like opening up to craft breweries, but they've effectively created portfolios where no one's like Begyle or even Pipeworks or barely larger breweries than that are getting beers into like places like the airport. No one's gonna get it on an airplane. We're barely able to get it into stadiums that are actually in like, I don't know, the outlets where you sell a lot of beer were effectively taken over by macro beer dressed as craft beer, and that's all they needed. They need and that really changed the trajectory, or at least when Tony McGee was on this show and Ed Mar fell in love with him, he talked about how it's open field running right now, and that's part of what that was, right? But because of the way Heineken bought them and ABI, what they've done with craft brands, it closed up real quick, and so all these breweries that opened being like, well, it's like infinitely scalable because we're going to sell all here, and then when we conquer that, we're going to move into all these other states. When we conquer that, we're going to move into the world. Like I remember watching Brewbound pitches where breweries a brewery from Chicago, which is still basically only in Chicago and maybe one other state, was saying we're going to be selling beer in Moscow and Tokyo and London, and it wasn't crazy. Like it wasn't crazy to think that you could do that. That was like 2014,
Right.
and like that's kind of over, and it's because of what AB and larger companies did with acquiring craft brands.
Right. So in that case, maybe it was it was worth it to.
Totally.
I mean, worth it on multiple levels. So,
Right.
And I don't think they were trying to keep the, sincerity and authenticity forever. They were trying to make them their own.
They kept it for as long as that mattered to people.
Yeah.
And then like when it was cheaper and more available at the grocery store, then people were like, well, whatever. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Go.
So we can come back to the AB stuff. two other smaller things. I mean, smaller in terms of like dollars, but not in terms of like maybe impact. Certainly to the people involved. Is so that beer store, the franchise, not Dave Hawley, but the craft beer seller franchise. So the original location is for sale in Massachusetts. I don't know if that's the only one that they operate. I know that there's like now 11 or 12 franchise locations. I think it had been 30. Now it's down to 11, 12, something like that. The original one is closing. I think that says something. And
it's closing, or the people like retiring, or like what?
I'm sorry, it's not closing. It's for sale. It's for sale.
Right.
It's for sale. And they're not. So the franchise is going to continue. They're just, it's very much marketing speak for its closing, which is like, we want to focus on new adventures and, stuff like that. And then, closer to home, Low Res announced that it was closing. Low Res in, was it Pilsen or?
Pilsen.
Yeah. Announced that they're closing, and then some other places, too. Did you add the others, Mike? Is that you who added that, or is it you, Kevin? Yeah, so as Oswego, Metal Monkey, Rock Bottom, Lombard, and Low Res, all in the past month, announced. So my assumption is that you could take that and multiply that out all around or to many parts of the country. And, it's a picture's being painted here, Yeah. Anchor's closing. These little guys are closing. Specialty craft store, probably one of the most famous, like, little ones, I guess, closing. AB divesting. It paints a picture. And I'm just curious, like, what do you guys see that painting? Like, what is that picture? Because I think it's a little bit more deep than, craft is fucked, and here's the proof that craft is fucked. But I'm curious what you guys think is the nuanced story. Like, when you hear all that stuff, what do you guys think about it? Good things, right? Happy makes you happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the only person here besides you that doesn't own a craft brewery, and all I can think about is, like, I think now is the time to open one up.
Yeah.
No.
Buy low.
Yeah, exactly. I heard tanks
Open
are cheap.
low.
I heard tanks are cheap, which is good.
If you open a tap room, the people will come.
Tap rooms are where it's at.
I mean, all joking aside, I'm sure somebody out there is going to do that right now. And
I mean, it sounds like it literally sounds like
do it well.
Tilray sounds like it's a good idea.
It's like Tilray sounds like they got oh sweet.
Anyone with cash and a lot of free time might consider it, maybe, because there's a lot of good equipment out there right now. Like, I monitor Pro Brewers Classifieds. I've been doing it since we opened, and you can go 10 pages deep now, and there's high quality, low priced equipment. And for the last probably 5 to 6 years, everything that was on there was kind of like junk.
Yeah.
It was like, why would anyone buy that? It's like somebody trying to get rid of like something that's been sitting in the back of their brewery for a couple years.
The keg washer they don't want.
But now you can get like brand new brew houses, new fermenters, or not new, like brand new, really good quality made stuff.
Reputable
and
brands, low mileage.
Selling for like 30 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. And
so like that coupled with these stories.
That doesn't even count like the liquidation auctions where it's even lower a lot of the time.
Yeah. It's kind of weird time. Sorry. I was just going to say, like, I kind of put like a softer twist on it, having been through the ups and downs, like the heyday, 2015, 16, 17 was like the heyday. That's why breweries were selling for $1 billion. We're far off of that from now. We've had a pandemic. On my own brewery, it's been a challenge. We've had our ups and downs. But I think for us, we have a ton of optimism right now. Like, you see these stories, it breaks your heart. Dave at Low Res is an amazing dude. You wouldn't find a nicer guy in craft beer. And it just didn't it didn't click. You know, maybe it was the location or the styles of beer. We'll never know for sure, but now's the time for them to hang up their hat. And I think we talked about this maybe on a previous podcast when it was us. But like, it's hard. Like, people don't realize how hard it is. It's such a fun business, and it's so great. Like, being up at the Great Taste of the Midwest and seeing customers that we've made relationships with over the last 10 years. And, you know, you see them, you have good times, and then you get back to the office on Monday and it's like, oh shit, here we go. Like, that was great, but like, this is real. These are people's jobs. How did we do last week? How's distribution going? You know, the vibe and energy in the tap room is amazing, but like, you're steering a real ship with real people's lives at stake. And, you know, it's tough.
And the margin for error is totally different than it was when everything was double. You know, capacities were doubling every year or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you have to actually kind of know what you're doing. Whereas before, it's like if you just made good enough beer, you'd be doing really well.
Mm-hmm. You got to know what you're doing, and you know, you have to. I still think there's probably some. You know, there's a lot of skill, and there's some luck, and there's some. You know, you make a bad decision, but maybe based off of good data, and maybe, you know, or it could have been a coin flip, and it's like, you know what, we could have done this or that. I went with this, and you know what, it just wasn't how the market was going. Stuff like that happens.
Doug Shalau, friend of the pod, has a saying he would always tell me is that positive cash flow hides all wounds. And so, like, there could be a lot of problems with your business and the fundamentals of how it operates, but if you're making money, then everyone's like, well, that's a feature, not a bug. And then when the market gets different, you're like, oh no, that was definitely a bug, and we should have fixed it when we had the chance. And now it's just we're bleeding out that side of it. So.
And I think in a lot of ways that's what COVID ended up being, because you know, from 15, 16, 17, 18, there was so much growth and so many people investing. You know, some people were put hodgepodge in it and going cheap. Some people got over their skis and they bought the really nice equipment. And going into COVID, there was still really pretty good growth in the tap room and in distribution. And then that changed everything overnight. For us, our business relied heavily on the tap room. We lost 80% of our overall revenue overnight. And then for the better part of 2 years, we were a smaller brewery, 3,000 to 4,000 barrels, trying to sell 4-packs out the front door. And
that's tough.
And what I didn't realize until 12, 18 months later, I looked back at the numbers and I was like, holy crap, that was maybe the worst decision we could have made, because much more expensive product to package, revenue majorly down. My rent didn't change, you know. So it just created these, I think Bart called them wounded, like 2 years ago at CBC.
But what was the other option? Like, that was the worst decision you could have made, but like, what else could you have done?
We could have
Closed?
packed care packages, and I could have paid them with my federal bailout money and not spent any of my money on cost of goods, because we were spending, cans skyrocketed, labels skyrocketed.
Right.
If you could get cans, if you could, we poured out, we destroyed so much draft beer. So it was just like one of those things where I think breweries in that 3,000 to 5,000 barrel tier really got punched in the gut, because they're straddling that distribution / taproom model. And for a lot of us, the distribution feeds the taproom, right? Like, we're on the store shelves that we sell almost exclusively in Chicagoland. That model of, someone finding my beer at Trader Joe's means that they might come to my taproom one day. Or if they find me at the beer temple, hopefully they'll come over on a Saturday and try some beers that aren't available. And it's just like you kind of hope that loop continues. And
yeah.
And then you'll sell more beer out in the world because they had a good time in your tap room. It's just this positive feedback loop that part of it was just totally destroyed.
So let me ask:
is it? So you think it's not all bad, right? You think that this might? What's the silver lining of seeing these?
Yeah,
things
I wanted
happen?
to get there, but you.
Sorry,
I have a question, and no, you weren't. This is something that wasn't necessarily on the outline, but that I had an I just think with the people here, it might be. You might have some interesting answers. Do you think somebody could open up a highly, a business that could be highly profitable because you were getting equipment for 30 cents on the dollar. Could you find a good piece of real estate, maybe get in there cheap, maybe you're renting
I don't think
or
that
something.
part's going to happen. But
Yeah, so we're trying to do
Unfortunately.
that. Like that's actively what I'm looking for. The thing about rents is that rents haven't gone down.
Yep.
Like right.
No,
so,
I'm just saying get in on a rent versus buying a building is what I was
Sure.
saying. So like you don't need a ton of capital
Right.
to rent. Hold on, let me finish and then you can say it. And then buying.
Yeah, Mike, let Chris make his point how he's wrong.
No,
first.
let me ask the question. Let me ask the question, then you can answer it. And I think it is what he's doing, but I want to kind of put it out there. So you buy this stuff cheap, you get into rent versus buying, putting out like a down payment,
Yep.
and then your cost of goods is even lower, and you're getting
But the
good
cost-
your cost,
on
of good,
premise.
your cost of goods is not lower.
Yeah, the cost of goods is the cost of goods. That's the raw materials that's going into the product and stuff like that. It's not including like overhead and all those
Well, your
things.
liabilities
Your
are lower.
overhead is lower.
Yeah,
sure.
your liabilities are
Cost
lower.
of goods, same.
So you're not necessarily making cheaper beer, but we're in theory offsetting is like, okay, well, I'm paying rent now, or I'm paying more rent now, and I have this equipment, but I'm also have on-premise sales, so that kind of makes it more profitable for every drop of beer that I'm selling.
And I didn't have to borrow as much to buy this equipment because I bought it for so cheap.
Sure.
We might be back to like if you do want to open a brewery, what it was like to do it in 2008, 2010, where like wasn't the original Half Acre Brew House was from Ska, and they drove out and bought this for a steep discount and
in the tanks,
brought
and all,
it, yeah.
and the, like the hot, like so much of the tanks.
We still have
so
the
unfortunately instead of it being
cooler.
Ska
You saw the cooler.
instead of Ska outgrowing like their equipment, it's that the brewery goes out of business. But when you're starting a brewery now, like and that, honestly, it wasn't possible. But that's how every place should behave.
What do you mean?
Is like to spend as little money as possible to make the best beer you can with with the equipment you can have. Like right, like. For a while, you were selling so much beer that you could afford to buy things that you didn't really need, I guess, for lack of ever. But I don't know. I think keeping your overhead low, as low as you can, having a payable loan. A lot of people got loans based on sales that just aren't happening anymore. Are things that it's hard to. It was impossible to project what was going to happen to the industry because of how COVID and everything, but you knew something like that was going to happen, right? Like, there's too many breweries.
Right. So
trying to be leaner, trying to be a little bit more thoughtful with your decision making than just like it's all up and to the right, even though that is one of my favorite things about in my investments. Isn't a bad thing necessarily. It is very, very unfortunate for people that had to make these decisions when it wasn't the environment it is right now. If you know what I mean.
Right. I mean, is now a better time to open up a brewery than 4 years ago?
I opened a brewery 4 years ago. It was not a good time.
Is now a better time?
Depends on who you are and what you want to do.
Do you know how many? If you don't, I don't expect anyone to actually know this answer. I'm sorry. Do you know how many breweries have opened up in the last 4 years?
I think 300 opened last year.
Yeah, wasn't a
yeah
lot.
breweries are even with all the closings, we're still up this year.
Right.
I know.
probably
So that's what's blowing my mind. It's like when used beer equipment would come online, it was because people were scaling up. Now it's because people are either like not scaling down or they're just like going out of operations or going out of business altogether. So it's like there's just more of that happening simultaneously, and the fact that there's so many more breweries that exist now than ever before. So inherently, there's just been more stuff that's been manufactured over the course of the last 15, 20 years. So it's definitely a buyer's market, but it's just not. What I keep thinking about is like if you were to open a brewery now versus 4 years ago, is it like just inherently harder to be at the like tip of the conversation where people care and are like hyped up about something versus like 4 years ago.
I mean, even 4 years ago, that was
think it
really,
is.
really hard.
Yeah.
I think it's
Like-
harder now.
I mean,
I agree.
if
I
I'm-
agree.
if
I mean,
I'm-
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Like, I just can't think of anything that's like. I'm so sorry if I'm stepping
you're
on anyone's
great.
toes, but I'm like, what has like opened up in the last like 2 years, even just 2 years, where people are like, oh my god, you have blah blah blah, like they're crushing it.
I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, like part of the reason we started out doing only saisons, most of it was because it was what I wanted to make, and it was something I thought there was not a lot being made that I liked of. But also part of it was like because there weren't a lot being made the way that I wanted them to be made. I thought it was easier to gain access to people's like minds, you know, like
Sure.
and carve a space into people's brains that like, oh, ISWAs, they make the saisons. Whereas, like, if I were to try to open up and be a brewery that's generalized, it's like, oh, they're just another brewery, which you just get thrown in a much bigger bucket. There might be a smaller amount of people that have the saison bucket in their head, but if you can exist more loudly in like in a bucket
Sure,
that where you
yeah.
can like stay in someone's brain, and the fact that we have survived 4 years, that like now we're starting to see people like, oh yeah, like people from restaurants are reaching out to me like, oh, I've been drinking your beer for a while, and like, you know, we want to get some saisons, or like you told me about someone at a festival that mentioned us that I've never even talked to.
Right.
And we're so small that I assume I know everyone who's drinking our beer, but it's not the case. So like, but I think if we had opened as like a generalist brewery doing what we were doing, we would have died a long time ago.
You don't think
Even
that
4 years ago.
I've never talked to you about this off mic, so I apologize if this is like weird. But do you think you could have like ridden your like barrel aged like cred and actually like had like, let's say you started up a subscription for barrel aged beer, and it was like, well, Mike's won medals at Phobab. Like,
I wish I don't have that kind of juice, but
no, but you had
I
juice.
don't know about that.
That's BS
I
if
don't
you
know
don't
about
think
that.
you don't. I'm not. Gonna
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
with Eric.
I'm not going to let you talk about one of my friends like that. All right.
It's a callback to some pre-air stuff. But,
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it. I didn't have the. I hate those types of beers, to be honest. So
I think that's actually a good question to a point that like about opening a brewery now is like I think Mike would have been super successful if he had chosen that route, but at the same time, what happened to barrel aged beer sales?
yeah.
They've plummeted because nobody's putting them in their basements anymore. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with all the releases this year. But it is like that's a huge risk. So like
It's just nothing. But I think that's the thing that I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm so
no
sorry.
worries, no worries.
I just keep thinking about it. Like
Stop apologizing.
nothing is you. This is a really crappy thing to say. I don't really think anything is like lighting the world on fire because nothing is like changing the game and is that unique anymore. You have access to everything, everywhere, almost all the time. Barrel aged stouts, the freshest, most delicious, West Coast and or hazy IPAs, like great lager programs. They are everywhere. They're not. Nothing is unique and really setting the world on fire to the point where it's like I have to seek out XYZ thing. It's like you can, and if people do that, God bless you. But you can also get the second, third, fourth, fifth, on and on and on option. Like if you really want Bourbon County, as an example, that is right now as we sit here in mid-August, that is widely available from last year. If you really want it, there's some breweries whose you can't get, but you can still get really good options, and especially as it's about to be, winter.
the season.
Yeah. So, like, it's like, man, I don't know. Like,
I mean, there's two breweries that when you said who like, is there anyone who's setting the world on fire? And that two that came to my mind.
Scratch.
Yeah. No.
And
Might have been affected by my West Coast trip, but like Mickelhenny, a lot of people in a tiny little bubble are talking about them.
sure.
And North Park. When that's
yeah.
more you
Yeah.
go to what the West Coast.
You're talking like
everyone
such a
is
small,
talking about
small
North
area,
Park.
though.
North Park.
Right,
North
no
Park.
one-
Well, North Park's
North Park is all up and
they're-
down the West
they're
Coast.
at
People
every-
are talking about them.
and they're at every beer festival, whereas
Yeah.
Mickelhenny isn't.
Right.
So you have two kind of examples there. It's perfect. Like either A, you're at every single hype beer festival literally in the world, and it's the same lineup at almost all of them. Where
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking the same 40 breweries at all these beer festivals, and then the other side of that is Mickelhenny, who
Goes
sells
to
beer
none
at
of
one
them.
place.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it's like you either A, come to us, or B,
And
find
has
us
a-
at all
but
these
has a
fests.
huge pedigree. I mean,
have the
Oh,
legacy.
no
They have
doubt.
the legacy.
No doubt. But I'm
pedigree.
saying, like they're there's two opposite sides of the spectrum in like such a small area where people are talking about both of them. I think both of them make great beer. I every single beer fest I go to where I see North Park, I'm like, I'm gonna go drink whatever West Coast they have because I know it's gonna be great.
right.
And they like keep winning medals and awards and stuff like that. Like that's not anything to sneeze at either. But
Right. And when we had Matt Bernelson on the show, what's the place that he talked about? We're like, who's doing who? Like, who excites you? And he was like, North Park. I mean, that's like, he had a very definitive answer, and it's like, that's who makes me feel like I'm behind on like how to work with hops and stuff like that. So, I mean, maybe it is. I mean, maybe it's just, the long tail of innovation, too. Maybe they're just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and it's becoming these micro tweaks, but they are allowing them to rise up. At the same time, I think I named 2 places, which that came to my mind. I'm sure there's more, but
Right.
I mean, I know there's
and
more.
one of them is just the same brewery over again.
Yeah, that's what I said. They have a huge pedigree. It's kind of
Yeah.
what I meant. It's Alpine
Right.
doing Alpine stuff again.
Right. So,
Which
Yeah.
I think like
so one newish brewery doing new things and one brewery doing the thing they've done forever really well.
Back to doing it
Yeah.
the way they used to.
Well, new things are gonna like it's hard to come by. Like we
course.
were talking before this about how like I would show up to the tour before I owned Begyle. I would show up to the tour at Half Acre. I wait in line. I pay my money. I'd have a great time, and that was a great era of craft beer. But those were all people that hadn't tasted the things that were now created in the last 10 years, and we've all tried a ton of different things. And like to opening the brewery point and just where things are going, like. At a certain point, new, you run out of ideas, and
Well, there just aren't that many good ideas, Like
There's been some great
million,
ideas,
There's a
yeah.
million ideas, but not all of them are good.
but I guess what I was going to go to is if I was going to open
Sorry.
a brewery today,
Yeah.
I would just brew
Yeah, tell me.
approachable stuff, because at the end of the day, like if you're like yelling and screaming to try and get people's attention by doing something that's new, or you're trying to crack the long tail of all of this innovation that's happened, like RTDs are on the down. Like those were the hot thing like 6 months
Right.
ago, and then like look at Truly in the last 13 weeks. Like
My gosh,
The people-
Stelter's getting demolished.
hammered. Like so, like all these things that everyone's like, oh, this is the greatest thing. Like it just confuses people. But then if you have this layer, and this is one thing that I think we do well, and why I'm optimistic for our future is we've always done classic styles really well, and we do approachable. So even if it's something new to us, like our hazy IPA is approachable. It's not a New England style IPA, but it's a hazy IPA, and people who drink New England style can enjoy it. And I do think that if we're going to exist, if we want our breweries to be these family breweries that last 100 years like you see in Europe, like we have to get back, like you focus on making good beer, just really good drinkable beer that people want to come back and have. Because if you're constantly trying to like stimulate people's brains with new, like it's just going to stop. I worked at Pepsi and we invented ketchup chips. Like, because they ran out of chip
Right.
flavors. And then they went down a rabbit hole of all these other flavors after I left. And it's just like every time I scratch my head, I'm like, why are they doing this? It's because somebody in marketing is like, we got to come up with something new.
Right.
People like ketchup.
It's funny you mentioned that on the ride back, my wife came back from one of the convenience stores that are attached to the service centers on the highways and stuff, and she was like giggling, and it was the Pennsylvania brand of is hers, and they had roast pork sandwich flavored chips, and it was supposed to be like an Italian pork.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. It tasted kind of like gravy, maybe. It was really gross.
But for those 2 months of summer, the hottest summer in the history of the earth,
right.
Right.
those chips
I think
helped them sell
It's
Right.
also
more.
an interesting point to
Right.
think about how we malign breweries for quote unquote innovation and making a million different beers and trying to new Pokemon. But it's not an isolated incident. Every other consumer packaged goods company is doing that. Look at how many Oreos there
But
are.
hold on.
How many
Oh,
chip
yeah.
flavors there are.
I also went
how many
to
LaCroix flavors there are. How many different it's
I'm
happening in
down for
everything.
more LaCroix flavors.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
some
mean,
of them get a little off the rails.
that's fine. I think there's a little just to
more LaCroix
defend
flavors.
you and I, and what we were saying about
We're
that.
old and we're done with it.
No, I don't think that's what it is necessarily, Mike. I think that with craft beer, it was in the heyday of that new, which for some breweries is still going on. It was so rapid. It wasn't like we're putting out like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 flavors a year, and that's a lot of new flavors for an Oreos. If Oreos put out 5 different types of Oreo every year, it would be insane.
They're doing that for sure.
Okay. All right, fine. So they're doing 5.
At
They're not
least.
doing 200
Sure.
for one brewery,
Right.
which some breweries are doing that. So, like, I think it's like it was to a whole nother level with breweries.
Yeah.
Sure. But I'm just
and
saying
how's-
it's
and
not
how's
nice.
that-
It's
how's
not
that
nice.
going
Look
now?
at Snickers.
Right.
Look at anything that has any sort of emotional attachment to it. It's also happening where there's like these things that like just a bazillion iterations on different Nike Dunks or different whatever. I don't know what the cool shoes are, but like
It's dunks again.
Allbirds.
yeah, it's definitely all birds.
Yeah.
You can tell someone listens to podcasts.
Throwing fits. But yeah, so like
For the sharp listeners, you might have actually heard. You might have heard the Fade Master on that one in the background. You might have heard him chuckling at the Allbirds joke.
the Fade Master's a hype beast.
Oh my God, he's covered
Head to toe in Supreme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's got a Supreme fader. Where do you even get that?
I have no idea. There were probably only 7 of them made, but somehow he got one.
Right. I mean, hey, good for him.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Do what you love and let it kill you.
So getting back to what I was saying, and then maybe we can take a break and freshen up our beers or something like that. Is there what is the overall like? Is there a silver lining, as you were saying? I was like, wait, I'm not ready for that. Give me 1 minute, and then 30 minutes later, here we are. Like, is there a silver lining to all these places? Changing hands, closing, going out of business, all that sort of stuff for going forward, for where that puts us now and in the near future. And if you think it isn't, if you think the worst is still to come. I mean, I didn't even get to some of the other shitty news, which maybe we can skip. But I mean, distribution is. But it might play into it. So distribution, points of distribution is down.
Save that for later.
You want to save that? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, is there a silver lining to all this and where this puts us going forward?
I just
And you know what? Have a lollipop while you're
Thank
on
you.
the air.
what I've been thinking about is like really for
You opened up a lollipop,
almost
a piece
10
of
years.
hard candy.
I'm doing it off mic. Give me a break here. Sorry. I think there is like what I keep thinking about is there is a finite amount of beer that people will consume, and there's not I feel like that's never been like an identified number, right? So you start like breaking down like market share and things like that. You think like, okay, yeah, well, big breweries are going to take up this much market share, and then you break down markets and you kind of see where things shake out. But it's probably a better way to identify beer sales versus like just the volume, because just because let's say there's 10 billion barrels of fermenter space that manufacturers
Share of throat.
have made.
Pepsi
That we're
style.
talking about?
Maybe there's only 8 billion barrels that are actually going to be consumed. So who's the idiot for building more than we could actually all drink? I don't know.
Right, but who knows? Yeah, who's gonna have the 8 billion that gets drank, and who's gonna be left holding the bag?
Right.
Yeah, and I was going to say to that same point, like maybe it does force the ones that do survive. I think this winter is going to be very tough for a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of hard decisions to be made. But like,
Why this winter?
There's going to be a lot of economic things that change in the next couple months. Student loans are going to be paid back on September 1st. That's something that we have been just burying our heads in the sand with. So that's going to affect a lot of people. But then there's also everyone's debt from COVID is due. Like if you took loans from COVID, small businesses, it's due. You got to pay it. If you're not paying it, they're going to get mad at you. And then also just all your other bank debt, your sales, if your sales haven't rebounded. I think there's a lot of wounded breweries that we're starting to see that the wounds are now fatal. Like they got along. Everyone hoped that the summer would be good. I think if you talk to anyone in the hospitality industry, this summer has been shite. Like
This summer's been
unpredictable
bad for us.
Unpredictable, if
Yeah.
not it's just hard everywhere. Like reading the stories about the South, like Texas and Florida, it's like you feel really bad for these people. I think it's like Houston, Texas is losing $8 billion a month because of the temperature, just the temperature alone, but in gross developed GDP.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think anyone that can make it to next summer, like it does offer this like lens that, if we can all be healthy businesses, if you can figure out where you want to be, like what does Begyle, how big does my company need to be profitable or to pay my employees, to be able to pay myself and then survive and move on and continue the legacy that we've built? Like, how do we stay healthy? And I think a lot of it was in the last 10 years was just growth and people getting loans and 22% growth. And this is awesome. It's a party,
And
rising
3%
tides.
loans.
3% loans. And, now we're getting quotes for 10%. Like prime plus 1-2 is 10% right now. And so it's going to be really hard. And if people like these businesses, it could be any hospitality business right now. We're in the business of making people happy. You come to us for your happy times. So of course you're going to go into a place and they might seem happy one day and then they might be the next place that's going to close. But no one knew because they are there to make your lives like better, and yeah. So that being said, that was not a silver lining. The silver lining is I think that hopefully there'll be a group of healthy companies that can survive for the next 100 years, and get through times like COVID and not be a brand new business.
Or survive as long as they want.
Or as long as they want.
Or hopefully that some of the places that close are opportunities for breweries that have something unique to say or do that they want that wouldn't have been able to exist 6 years ago because everything was too expensive and startup costs were too expensive. So there might be some other voices that can make interesting things. I don't know. That we're looking for silver linings. It was pretty weak, but
I think
that's a good point.
I think the healthy point is huge. Like, not trying to talk any smack about people that haven't survived and have closed recently or whatever. But there's a lot of factors that are controllable and there's a lot that aren't. With all this in mind, and I think something that I've always pushed. And all the breweries I've worked at is that exact thing. It's like, how healthy are we financially? How healthy are we with our actual sales, with our planning, with the scope of our business, the scope of how much beer we're going to make and all that stuff. And there's, you can control a good amount of that. And hopefully you have all your ducks in a row and that all works out. But I've seen, it was only a headline. I didn't read the whole article. I only read the headline, but it was talking about, it was some publication was like, man, craft beer is really expensive. And it's only going up in cost. Why is that? And it's like, well, because the things you can't control. Because
everything is.
Yeah, hops that were $10 a pound or $12 a pound, insurance, you name it. Like, it's not like any price goes down; they almost all go up. So beer kind of does, shifting,
shipping.
And shipping is a huge thing too, of course. So, hopefully people can be ready to absorb the good and the bad, and they're healthy enough to do it. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I just had a flashback to LTL issues this week because you should have added that to the list. Yellow, the LTL carrier closed overnight, or not overnight. They were kind of like, hey, we might close, and then they did overnight. And if you had pallets stuck at Yellow, you're not getting them back.
What is LTL? What is Yellow?
Less than truckload. So it's if I want to ship you a pallet, I send it. A truck comes by, picks it up. A lot of smaller breweries use LTL, and they closed, and that caused a ripple effect We should have added them to the list. But yeah, so the last 3 weeks, if you talk to anyone that shipped anything in the last 3 weeks, it's been a bloodbath. 30,000 employees overnight.
Oof.
Yeah. So
Oof.
Why
our labels got
On
shipped.
that happy note, maybe we could
the
take
the price was already so high for shipping, so
Yeah.
it just went up.
It just came back down, and everyone's
Okay,
like,
yeah.
yes,
Right.
shipping is better. And then I think there's 2 other companies that went out of business in the last 2 weeks, and that just caused a whole problem. So some other brewery received our labels in Missouri that we were supposed to get Friday. So it's getting even more fun out there. Silver linings.
So good times to be had for all.
Open a brewery. Don't use LTO. Full truckload only.
That scale is math's not mathing for what we were talking about before.
Let's take a break. Refresh our beers and come back in a few minutes. We got some other topics. Got some letters that I think we are long overdue to get to. And we'll be back with more.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalal from His Was Brewing, with your other co-host, Chris Quinn, Eric Kapraun, and Kevin P. Carey.
Kid Sucker.
My
sucker
brother
kid.
in Dust.
Yeah.
And the Fade Master.
Sucker.
Bring us back in.
Kind of hate that. It's not, no, that's not stick.
Just
Was there gum inside of that
Anyway,
lollipop?
Yes.
Nice.
welcome back to the Lollipop Hour. We represent the Lollipop Guild.
Yeah.
That was a short joke about myself. Anyway, Chris, what are we going to be talking about for the next few minutes?
Well, there was more information that came out.
Positive news?
Yeah, all positive.
Technically not positive.
What's the silver lining?
Right. So basically, the Brewers Association came out with their mid-year report, and then also our friend Don at 3-Tier Consulting has like a little write-up that he does for Brewbound as well. So also I want to, give a shout-out to Brewbound for giving us access to their premium content. So thank you to those folks for allowing us access to that, so
True
we can
insiders.
talk about it. Yeah, thank you. So just a very quick rundown of what this is saying. BA says craft is down. They estimated down 2% when you're talking about like own premise and this and that and some of the stuff that isn't reported through scan data, which is an improvement. Down 2% is an improvement from last year. And Bart Watson, their kind of number cruncher guru,
Economist.
economist.
Chief economist.
Yeah, but like
A guru of sorts, though.
I would say so. I mean, I would say so. I would say when
The guy can rock a PowerPoint.
when he opens his mouth, a lot of people in craft beer listen to what he has to say.
As the chief economist.
Yes, for the BA.
Yeah.
The worst contraction is behind us, is what he believes.
You know what you call that? A silver
A
lining.
silver lining. It's not good. But distro draft getting annihilated, like a craft beer going out through distro, meaning not own premise, down 30% year over year. I mean, just getting
That's a
hammered.
Big number.
Hammered. Quote from Bart Watson, the value of draft to retail has been cut in half over the last 6 years. So, and then 3-Tier Consulting, craft's total points of distribution is down just over 2% in the last rolling year, and volume is down about the same. 16 of the top 20 craft brands lost distribution in the last quarter. And then I have my own note. Could this be a healthy thing? But I know you guys, Eric and Kevin, had some thoughts about this stuff. So go have at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's from one, it's very competitive out there for draft placements. It always has been. I will only speak to the lens in Chicago, where I've only been selling beer for 10 years. It has always been hard to get the placements that you want. And it's also been harder, I think, over time to get the mind share of your distributor that you want. Because for whatever reason, not only are you competing with other breweries within the portfolio of your distributor, you're also competing with the other distributors, obviously. You're also competing with self-distributing breweries who can, make changes, deliveries, and do things on a whim, same day, next day, do the kind of things that big distributors aren't able to do. And it's only going to continue to be harder. And the part of that blows my mind is that it's down, the amount year over year. I think everyone thought coming out of 2020 and into 2021 and even last year that the on-premise was going to get back to the 2019 levels.
Yeah, rebound.
And that ain't going to happen. That's pretty much out the window at this point. And now that reality has settled in as bar and restaurants have moved maybe to more cocktail focused or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And there's not as many of them also. Yep. You take all that competition and you just now kind of magnify and force it all together. And it's just tough. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. But all those things combined, I do think it's fascinating to go out into bars and restaurants around Chicagoland, and it's the variety, I think, overall is minimized. And I think people are sticking with putting things on a menu that they know is more broadly appealing and has more recognition. So that's just my 2 cents on all of that. Mm-hmm. Very, very craft specific places like Beer Temple, I would say I would exclude from that, where everything's kind of rotating all the time. But
not all craft bars though. I've seen some that have significantly cut down the variety of beers they have on draft. Some by half.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough. There's no point of having 48 things on draft
if you can't move that much volume.
Right, and then it just becomes a thing of your cash flow of why do I have 48 kegs sitting in here when I could just bring this down a little bit and have a little
right.
more free
I'm
cash
selling
flow.
this many ounces per week, no matter how many draft lines it's divided by.
And draft lines going to other wine or cash cocktails, things like that. So
there was back to call back to the heyday. There was a period of time where everyone was putting in bigger and bigger and bigger tap systems. The 2 largest tap systems in Chicago, Howells and Hood and Hopcat, are gone. Now Howells and Hood is the ice cream museum and a foxtrot.
I didn't know that.
So they got out of their lease.
So all you need is $100 million in VC funding, and you too can have the most draft lines in Chicago.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. It takes a time, but then they learned.
What's at Hopcat?
Hopcat is still
nothing.
the
It's just
same
empty.
facade. It's empty. It might even be the same furniture, which was actually kind of sweet. But
I agree.
but they couldn't handle. It's 100 kegs. Nobody in Lincoln Park was coming to drink 100 different beers, but it was what people told other people that we should be doing. It's you need to have this robust list. And to your point, I was going to say what I've seen a lot of is there are bars that are leaving lines open, just keeping their lines fresh and making sure that they're understanding what their customers want. They have the tap lines, but they're just not using them, and or just shrinking their systems. If they've been looking to do a refresh of their space, they just cut out the lines.
Yep. I know Melanie at the Green Lady did that. She did a big reduction of her draft lines. And that's one of the things that Bart Watson was mentioning was, I think, a long-term fear of his was that as if this goes on for too long, people will just get used to not having draft options. And when new places open, they're not going to put in big draft systems because it's not as needed.
I think that's a fear that's well-founded and like already in motion.
And what makes you say that?
We're seeing the reduction of a very craft-focused place, and then like I don't know anyone who's putting in more than like 8 draft lines, and that's a lot if you're not like a
Well, and the cost goes up every
Right.
8. So like a trunk line is 8.
right.
So if you think about like your favorite bar, if they have 24 draft lines, that means they spent 3 times what they needed to have 24 tabs. And if you're opening up a new place and you're looking at your budget, we're talking about that earlier, like if you can get in and do it smarter and easier and have 8 lines and just crush, 8 lines, then you're going to make just as much money. We're starting to do that in our own tap room where we have 16 lines, but we're trending towards 12, like because people are starting to buy the same things over and over instead of wanting to taste more options. They want to stick, like our top 5 beers or top 5 styles are always the same.
Yeah, and I think the for non-breweries, like the name is curation, right? And being able to, and knowledge. Like the reason you guys can have it listening to the boards, because like I can ask anyone behind the bar about anything on the board, and they'll be able to tell me something. And I'm obviously a different case than the average person who walks in here because I'm here every week and I know all these guys.
It happens all the time.
But they can tell something
new and old.
But they can tell
Like,
something
yeah.
to me about that beer, and then specifically about what I would like about it or not like about it. Right?
Right.
They can tailor it to me, which that is not for. Like, you can't do that for everyone. But like, I'm basically only like I drink here and at Hop Leaf and at Begyle, like, and then I drink my own beers, and then I drink like Goldfinger at home. Like, I think that's more the case now, whereas people just
You're not drinking my homebrew?
If you make it, I'll drink it. I promise you.
We're waiting for the new brewery. Or holding out.
I want your test batches for Eric Brow or Elsinore.
What about
Eric,
the
Eric
points
Sonor.
of distribution? Like any specific comments on the points of distro?
One of the things that I wonder about is there's obviously the proliferation of NA. So depending on NA, they can pay slotting fees. So if you're truly NA 0.0,
What's slotting fee meaning?
like what Coke and Pepsi does.
Way to play.
Well, NA is 0.5 or below, isn't it?
Well, so if it's truly zero alcohol, you don't fall into the beer category. But 0.5, you can't. Like that, there's alcohol, so that
Interesting.
falls under the 3. Like
So kombucha can't.
Right, but pay to play, like you can do it. You can pay for lines, you can pay for a draft system, you can pay for this.
well, and so at the grocery store, more like you'll start to see that there's certain Heineken 0.0 might start showing up in a different section. So one of the things that I hope it's just a blip in time is this idea that seltzers decisions are like 12 to 18 months out at grocery stores. So they're still like working off decisions that they made a year and a half ago before seltzers started to tank. So now I'm sure for spring resets, they're all like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to give it back to craft beer? Or are we just going to give the macro brewers more space? Or is it, RTDs are already starting to fall off. So like what is the next thing? And so as a brewer who's about to pitch to grocery store, we're a tiny brewery. We're 3,000, hopefully 3,000 barrels this year, but we're still going to pitch all the major grocery stores in Chicago. And hopefully what we can tell them is like, we are a brand that you can bet on. Like we're going to be open. Like that's going to be a question. Like how many of these brands that are pitching are going to be open in 12 months? But then also we're not going to be a fad that's falling off because now you have these entire sets that were decided upon a year and a half ago that are just sitting there. I went to go buy some High Noon recently at the Jewels, and it was the
Why?
So I was at my in-laws for 2 weeks in Michigan, and they had a lot of High Noons in the
No,
fridge.
I'm kidding. My wife drinks that
Oh,
stuff.
it's good. It's good. I don't know. Anyway, so High Noon's good. Sponsor me.
No free ads, Kevin.
Sorry.
Barstool
This
Sports.
can't go on the air. But no. But one of the things I noticed is like I went to go grab a cold High Noon mix pack because we were going to Ravinia. That seemed appropriate, and they were out, but they had everything else. So anyway, but they had so much seltzer, and it was everywhere.
So much seltzer when you
much
go to
seltzer.
some of these places.
So much. It's
like
just sitting
walls of the stuff. Lousy with it.
What about heavily fruited seltzers? Up, right?
Yeah, like the thick boys.
Smoogies?
Yeah.
Smooge, smoogie.
Smooge and smooge adjacents.
Smooge was dropped by CBS. Do you hear that?
I did hear that. Yeah.
Wow.
That surprised me.
Bummer.
Did it surprise you?
I mean, considering how many brands that CBS Windy seems to like sit on, for them to drop Smooge did surprise me.
But they just dropped it. Like,
Just dropped it. I think they just don't distribute it anymore.
oh well, that's easy. Like, but they still own their rights. Or is someone
Okay.
else picking them up?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Some of
Now
it
I
picked them
know.
up.
Like, you can not. That's the thing about the franchise laws. It's permanent.
Yeah.
So
They might own the rights.
if
More than likely.
Holmes, the parent company to Smooge, signed a contract with Chicago Beverage, it's forever. So the only way
Right.
that that's going to move is if somebody else wants to pay Chicago Beverage. Which is a whole nother thing about the scan data is there's 50 craft brands at Reyes right now that if
Or
they
just
want to
like,
move,
yeah, ghosts,
you got to get paid. Like Reyes has got to get
zombies,
paid.
yeah. Yep.
So.
But if they just shelve them for a while, does that value go down?
Yes.
It's based on like how much of that beer they've
Yeah.
sold, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
18
volume. It's
months or
volume.
something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a volume.
It goes
times
down. It's like
multiplier.
it's the last 12 months of sales.
So if
Yeah,
they sell
12
zero, if they shelve legit shelve someone, and their sales go to zero for 12 months, what's the value based on getting out of that contract? Is it,
They could
it's not
still-
zero still, right?
Right. They could still make an argument that like we put all this like whatever, you know.
Sure.
It depends on who has the
But
best lawyer.
There's not some formula that the Illinois government has
No.
of like these sales and this investment in the brand. It's just like, well, it's basically whatever we tell you.
It's an agreement
It's
that
whatever we tell you it is, and the gentleman's agreement is 12 months of sales, roughly.
times a multiplier,
Yeah.
and then if you don't agree on that, then it's whatever the arbitrator. If you can afford to go to arbitration.
So if 12 months is zero, then you say
The multiplier is 8, and then so that becomes
0 times 8.
$200,000 somehow. Like,
But there's still an argument that you know maybe it was 2, 3,
0
4
times 8
years
is
that
200,000.
brand was at the distributor that they would argue that well we did this and this we created the market here. So
My guess is it probably comes down to, how much damage could it do to our existing portfolio, and that's what we'll sell it for. More than that.
Right.
Okay, let's.
future
Are
podcast.
we ready to move on to? I mean, I was going to talk. Well, let's do some letters. I wanted to talk about some comings, but we might have to skip those.
Some
and
weird
get to
comings
letters.
at the end.
Yeah, maybe we'll get.
Oh
we'll
wait,
get to
is that
some of
the,
those.
you're not going to talk about that one?
All right? We'll talk about.
I
that
did
one.
so much research.
Okay, let's talk about it also quickly. We got to
Let's
get
just
to the
kick
friggin'
the
letter.
letters
No,
next
we
time.
can't. We can't. I want to do a letter.
We're getting close here. Like,
We took a big break.
We're
yeah.
okay.
All right.
In the alternate universe of craft beer is Treehouse, who is opening up a golf course.
Yeah.
It's already open.
It's opened.
Yeah.
It's
It's
open
open.
now. Yeah, it's open. There was an article in Vine Pair
The back nine
about
stuff, I
it.
tell you.
They
Over par.
they still have some tea times open for
I drank
tomorrow.
too many Julius's on the back 9.
If anyone wants to go play some golf in Massachusetts,
I guarantee you I have friends from high school who are on their way.
They had this teed up.
Nice,
Thank you.
dude.
Thank you.
Nice.
They had this teed up. Thank you. They had this teed up a very long time ago. I think in like 2018 or 19, there were Treehouse Titleist like co-branded like golf polos,
I think
and I
that's
was like,
just a New England thing.
"Oh, really?
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Just
my
a moneyed New England thing to
maybe.
have.
Yeah, I just remember seeing that, and I was like, "Their Treehouse is doing golf shirts." But I was like, "Yeah." To your point, you know more about the Northeast than I do.
But I think that I
From
heard
me.
about them buying this place a long time.
So they bought it mid pandemic 2021. Last time I was on, I professed my love for Treehouse, I believe, after a family trip. And so I'm a Treehouse fan. It is a beautiful.
Of course.
Looking at a picture now. I mean,
Yeah.
the clubhouse. It's got the flag on the pin. It says Julius. It's like a Julius can.
It's
Here's
it's wicked smart.
Yeah. Here's
wicked.
what blows
He's
my
wicked
mind.
smart. You even went with the vernacular.
Here is what blows my mind. Almost every single beer that they make now is in a printed can, and they distribute nothing.
It's pretty
Yep.
awesome.
It's cheaper.
But but you have to get a certain amount of printed cans.
Have you seen the videos of that place?
I have.
That's amazing.
It just
He's been
blows
doing
my
tours.
mind.
He's been doing like these video walkthroughs.
Their
It's
YouTube
insane.
channel is
It really is an alternate reality.
It is.
Yeah.
I do
It
think
is.
that it's like, I don't wish this. There has to be a point in time where it's just like, oh,
Something-
dang, we did hit the end.
Right.
I do-
Of the infinite growth.
And just like,
Once you sent that, I
are
did
they like
it.
the Enron of beer? Like, are they just going to do like a massive collapse
It'd be
all of a
amazing
sudden?
if they. We haven't sold any Julius actually. It's all been
exactly.
It's all
As-
been accounting tricks.
Yeah, you haven't been drinking it at all. As a huge fan, I immediately, because I had a conversation not less than a week ago with somebody that was like, yeah, they decided not to open the golf course. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would you buy a golf course?
Who said that?
I'm like, who told me this? So whoever told me this,
Trillium said that. That's who said that to you.
I'm like, that sounds so dumb. Because why would you buy it? But they're like, oh, they did it for the tap room and to be closer to Boston. I'm like, there's so many better options.
Yeah, but
than
there's also a golf course. Yeah.
So then you sent that today. I'm like, all right, good. They still kept the golf course, but I went down a rabbit hole of is this a good idea?
Yeah.
And I have so
Yes.
it's a great idea, but get
Why?
this. So I went into their Google reviews for both the
Jesus.
Yeah, I
You did
know.
go down a rabbit hole.
You sent us a list of things that we were going to
Yeah.
talk about. I wanted to sound like I researched it.
Yeah.
I don't have a
that's
job,
why you-
and I did less than this.
Yeah.
Daisy, my daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, I stay home with her on Tuesdays. She was sleeping, and so I was busy.
Freddie G726 says,
But no, so if you go to the kingdom of Treehouse in Charlton, like it is magical. It's truly magical. It's amazing what they've accomplished. If you own a brewery, if you appreciate craft beer, if you drink good beer, like everything that they've done is just like it's a statistical anomaly. But they did it. It's great. So they're Sandwich, Massachusetts, Cape Cod
Yep,
location.
yep.
Open, beautiful. Pictures, beautiful. Golf course, pictures, beautiful. You go into the reviews, and it is a free-for-all right now. Like, the reviews are insane. Like,
Bad.
because
Good.
bad. Because
no.
they took their model that they built in Charlton, which is how do we provide the best customer service to all these people that love our brand and keep coming back? And they figured it out. But then they were like, you know what? We're going to build these outposts. We're going to go to Cape Cod. We're going to go to Tewksbury, across from the McDonald's and the Domino's Pizza. And we're going to open up this golf course. We can buy it, and we'll sell beer. We'll make a tap room. Their reviews, they're like a 4. It's like a 4 out of 5 on Google. And they have like a bunch of 1-star reviews because they're closer to the people now. So like you have Charlton, you have to drive to. Nobody, like, it's a very small town. But they built these facilities in places where there's a lot of population. So you have all these folks coming in that don't understand what's going on. They don't know what Treehouse is. They just want to get a beer. Or like that was the golf course that they golfed at. And so to me, I'm like, you're saying like, is this Enron? Like, no, but this is a fissure for sure. Like this is like,
So people are showing up there that just want to go golfing. Well, what are they saying?
dude, read the reviews. It's crazy.
You read them.
No.
paraphrase.
They're mad about kids running around. They're mad about the fact that you have to get a wristband and then they buy tickets online. Like, I think it's genius. They actually encourage people to pre-buy their beers so that you don't have to wait as long in line. That's genius. And it's their own POS. So like,
they've made their own POS.
so it's great, right? They're streamlining everything.
They
but
made their own POS. Yeah, I do know that.
as a brewery that streamlined some operations during COVID, you run into folks who come in and they're like, "What do you mean I can't use cash?" Like,
Right.
And so like that's what I think what they're hitting right now is people who don't understand the magic of Treehouse are just like it's like, oh, this is a thing that opened in my town.
They don't get that it's beer Disneyland or whatever.
Right.
It's
So-
like you don't
so-
say that in Disneyland. You just
Yeah,
go with it.
That's
thi-
fine. They're printing money.
I think I think they'll be fine, but at the same time though, like if you disappoint people, like think about that. If Treehouse started out of the gates disappointing people, would they be Treehouse?
Well, no,
Right.
but they have I guarantee you, people from all over the country are going to be going there for golf outings with the boys.
I hope so, but they have
and
tea times
spending
available tomorrow.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. No, I think
Are
it's
we
a great
going?
idea. It's 9
Serge, you got that
holes.
pilot's license yet, Serge?
It's a 9-hole course. It looks beautiful. Some guy named Chuck thought that it was way not taken care of.
Damn, Chuck.
Yeah. So
How many people said in those reviews, I won't be returning?
quite a few. Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty much every 1-star. But if you go back, it's so yeah. I don't know. I'm a little too excited because I'm a fan. But if you look at like the foundation they have in Charlton, like it's 4.7, it's 3,300 5-star reviews, and then you go to these 2 outposts, and it's just interesting that like when you put them into a population center, it doesn't mesh. At least right now.
I think that's just like opening hiccups, right? Where like
We'll see.
those people are coming in there and be like, "What is this place? I don't know what it is. I didn't know I had to buy things online beforehand." And maybe they'll figure it out there, or maybe they'll just be like, "Kick rocks! Like we're gonna make another $60 million a year here."
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, who knows? I mean,
It'll be interesting.
maybe they don't need those people. Who knows? I mean,
This also might be some interesting tie-ins to stuff we were talking about last week with tap rooms. Of like, you've been describing their main facility as magical, and so like going to the place where the thing is actually made, there might be some intangible like positive feeling attached to that doesn't.
I think of the
necessarily
journey
translate.
for sure.
Yeah,
Build
but
your
also the
expectation
intent.
up.
It's
Sure.
the intent, which I think
felt
is
that
what
when I
Kevin was getting at. Like now you're just closer to people, because if it was more like it could be the same situation that you're getting now if someone was just like, I just wanted to go to the local brew pub tap room, and there's these lines and you have to pre-buy, and it's a case minimum if you want to take it away, which is true. Like they won't even sell you, but you have to buy a case at least. It might be 2 cases. I think it's 1. But, like, it's crazy. So if you went there, you'd be like, what's the deal? I want a 4-pack.
You can't just buy a 4-pack for
No.
real. I don't want to get on.
I thought there were times where you could buy
That's-
like 7 cans was like the most you could get.
Yeah, I'm like. That's,
It's I think it's
now,
a,
yeah.
We've long
no, I
passed
think it's
that.
minimum a case now. Minimum a case. Yeah, it's nuts. And they do have their own point of sale. And it's and their customer service is amazing.
Amazing.
My wife was coming from Chicago, passing through, going to Boston, and to see my friend Joe. And he was like, "Oh, bring some Trillium for the party." And she put in an order, and then he's like, "Oh, we'll get some more." She put in a second order. He then put in an order and communicated with them and said, all 3 of these orders are meant to be picked up at the same time. Can you the pickup time that was selected for the order 1, can you make for the other 2 orders happen? I mean, that's really tough. And there's just lines and lines and lines of people, and they did it with like these just tons of people coming. I mean, it was impressive.
You've got to go to their YouTube page and watch the tours. Like I know this sounds like the lamest thing you could possibly do is watch a YouTube video tour of a brewery, but in one of them, they go into the walk-in cooler where they're fulfilling orders, and it's bigger than most breweries. And it's just like this insane system. And the craziest part of these like videos, there's like 5 or 6 maybe of them where it's the owner giving the tours, and he'll like walk past something and he'll get to like the conveyance line for the canner and he'll be like, check this out, this is crazy, and he'll talk about the different RPMs that the different things are set to, so that they're like, he knows everything about and then they have the proprietary software, and they have their own software engineer, and at the time that was like tweaking like the brew house software. It was wild.
Their warehouse is like slightly lower on grade than their brewery, so they have the special elevator that lifts all their pallets up to the brewery. And dude, it's magic. It's magic.
If you haven't seen any of these, if you have any time, you gotta watch them.
Everyone out
He
there
upgrades
listening.
his microphone halfway through, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the tours got even better.
Well, it's also and like the meta-ness of like, I don't even know if they realize, but like the idea they're telling this story about how like, you know, we started on this magic brew system, and then
Psycho brew.
and everything we did was like little. No, it wasn't even Psycho brew. It was like a Sabco, whatever like the half barrel system is, like, and it's small tweaks. No, just little tweaks, and then like he's like, well, we got a better microphone because the quality of the video product wasn't good enough, and you're like, that's the fucking thing. That's the thing you were talking about. It's like. They're pretty cool. Like
Cool.
you should watch them. Anyway, let's move on from the thing we're excited about to talk about TVs
5
and
microphones,
tap rooms.
5 microphone caps.
Yeah. I watched the videos. They're very cool.
Hey, don't be like that, Mike. By the way, these are people who spent time to send us letters.
Yes.
I'm
my
excited for this.
apologies to Steve. He says, "Hi guys, 2 things. I was just at my local brewery that I guess can remain nameless in the San Francisco Bay Area. They've got a great outdoor shaded patio, which is where I sat, mainly because inside there are 2 TVs, which I absolutely hate in craft breweries / bars. For me, great beer is an escape from pretty much everything. I watch TV at home. I don't need it or want it when I'm drinking high-quality brew. So I'm just curious for your view on that. It seems like an item stuck in between apparently customers are going to be bored otherwise. Sick. For me, great brew is enough, and if I'm with someone, then conversation." Also, he says, "The other thing is that I finally tried a hard seltzer, Kiwi Lychee one, for the first time. It's not going to replace beer, but it was a nice, sweet alternative that I sort of liked in an occasional way. Have you accepted this sweet alternative of craft seltzer? Best, and good luck with the food, Chris, and exotic brews, Mike. Steve on the West Coast."
Well, thank you, Steve. Thanks for everyone who
thank you,
takes
Steve.
time
Thank you, Steve.
to.
We appreciate all your letters here at the podcast.
I
and at
certainly
the
do.
show.
I would
And I
recommend-
know I do
Despite
as
some of
well.
the snarky attitude while reading
being
it.
sincere.
No, not you.
As the
Not while reading it, maybe a little
As the
before,
new
but I
co-host,
changed my
as a new
attitude.
co-host,
I would
really
recommend
appreciate
it. I would recommend that Steve try the High Noon lime.
Lime is the play.
Yeah. It's not overly sweet.
What about watermelon?
It's got to
don't
be
think I
tequila lime. It tastes just like a watered down margarita.
Nice. That's what everyone wants. Down margarita.
I mean,
So,
I think this is what So this is from. I think back when we were talking about the ambience at a lot of
back
tap
when we talked
rooms.
about it last episode. we be talking about it.
Yeah, right. Ambiance of tap rooms versus bars, and what makes a place kind of a public spot. Some people love TVs. I mean, we were just talking about it here. Like on Sundays when the NFL starts, we're probably gonna in the daytime on Sundays, open it up. We have a TV. Most people don't realize we have a TV here.
You guys have done it the best of any place I've seen.
And we're probably gonna play, Bears games, or if the Eagles are playing and I'm here, the Eagles will be on. So,
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with intentional TV use. Like honestly, I would put the Little League World Series on, like something kind of cool that's kind of fun to watch.
You want to see
or
the
something like
heartbreak
that.
of those kids.
Yeah, I want to watch them. I want to watch them
Devastating
cry.
12-year-olds.
I want to watch them cry on national television.
That's the Philly fan in you.
Yeah.
Throw batteries at children.
Throw
At
batteries
child
at children.
Santas.
Just like triple A's, little ones.
You know who?
Little ones.
You know who? It's like beer adjacent or craft beer adjacent is Green Post. Have you guys been there yet?
Mm-hmm.
So Green Post cleverly purchased those Samsung TVs. They're like they look like art.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so you go in there, there's TVs that you would never know that they're TVs until they want to show Premier League games. And like all of a sudden this painting goes from being a painting to a giant TV. And like that was one of the first times where I was like, this is really cool because you do still get that ambiance 80% of the time. And then you don't have like 47 screens in your face. Because I think that's what
Right.
a lot of people don't want. They want to go to a place where we can have a conversation, and if I'm with you, you're not like staring behind me to see the Sports Center
And it
clip.
sucks you in, even if you don't want to watch
Right.
it. You're just like, you're like.
We've been
yeah,
trained
okay.
to watch
like-
screens. Like it's just
Of
Yeah.
TV showing like TV where it's like Sports Center or something in the background, that's really distracting to me. I'm a big fan of like screens showing like movies on mute that like fit the vibe of the place. Like I was at a bar in Louisville that was playing like horror movies, and it like they were on. It was like Cujo on mute, and it really made sense, and it wasn't super distracting. And you would like look up, you're like, oh, okay. Like it was like moving art in the place. Not that it was like artistically done or anything, but it was like it wasn't something that was pulling your eye from anything else. But if you looked up there, you're like, oh, okay, that's like adds to the vibe of what this place is. But if it's just a TV, like if you're just like sports bar style, like on mute showing whatever, I'm not as into that. That's very distracting and can ruin the time.
Well,
but
I think Steve's question was about tap rooms in particular.
I said and craft beer bars.
Oh, and craft beer bars. I mean, it's tough because you don't want to alienate people, but on the other hand, I was raised in a brewery that didn't have TVs, and I enjoyed that it was always about the beer. However, there was one time where we put up a projector to show sports, and it was for the Cubs World Series because it was just like if we didn't have the game on, no one was showing up. But then the switch flipped, and people were coming to us because we didn't have the game on. People were just like, I want a place to drink that I don't have to listen to Cubs fans. Which
the Hop Leaf Super Bowl thing. That's kind of what they do, like famously every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's also
Super Stout Sunday.
To that same point, it's like we did. So 2016 Cubs World Series, we tried our best to like recapture the audience that we lost during the playoffs because we didn't have TVs. And one of the things that we learned is like if you don't have a TV, it is next to impossible to convince people to come watch on that day. Like if you're not a sports bar, like to pretend like you're a sports bar for a day is very difficult.
I think you just got to own it.
Yeah.
Honestly,
it was
and just
fun.
Be like, it's
because people aren't necessarily going to go like beyond I Googled it and it says there's not a TV. Are they even going to go to this? Like, okay, let me check the social media to see, and then
nah. I mean,
they're not.
losing.
Yeah, exactly. No. They're just going to be like, oh.
And you know what? You're not going to do it as well as a place that has them set up all over the place and it does big games all the time.
I mean, we brew and bottle on weekends at Begyle, and you guys have set TVs up and shown sporting events during like football season. And what I will say is that I think people stay longer.
Yeah.
If they're like, we're going to go to this place, and then like it's a group of people, and they don't really know what Begyle is necessarily, but like some people do. And then they see, they are playing the game. So people will stay longer if you have it on, if you're in it with a group of people like that. So I think having the option to either like roll a TV in a cart, like you're gonna watch Bill Nye the Science Guy, or like slide the board away like you guys do, and have it on for people that like, I was just gonna have a beer and then go watch the game, but you have it on, I'll stay here. Like that's important especially for like a city where it's cold.
And that was like
I love them Bears.
Pre-COVID thing that we learned. We had like split spaces. We had the upstairs, we had the downstairs. So what we were able to do is those carts came from this idea that we had the flexibility to be this space. Like it was like interchangeable, so the TVs could go away. Like you could come in and there would be no TVs. Don't want TVs, they could be gone. But during football, we started to curate, like we would announce the games that we're showing. So like Wisconsin football or Michigan football on Saturdays, and then always the Bears game on Sundays. And that worked really well to get people out for that same reason of like, I just want to hang out with my friends, and it's like pretty casual, but like we still want to keep tabs on the game. We're not diehards. Maybe there's a food truck. But then the downstairs, which is where the brewery is and where the tap room, the real core of the tap room is, there's no TVs, and like it was still pure. So we had that like split. So I think to his point, like, or like him asking how we feel about that, like we were able to create two different atmospheres before COVID. Now we kind of like split the space, the front and the back. The back is if you want to watch football, because if we didn't do it, people wouldn't show up. I do call bingo on those days as well, so that helps. But
I once got accused of cheating at bingo.
The ISWA's team won 5 rounds of bingo.
Let's go. We did not accept our prizes, though.
No.
I just tried to get free rent.
I have one more letter I'd like to get to. It's related,
but I think it can be done well.
Yeah,
if it's like you're saying, like if you can, especially with your food, like you've got a great menu. So like, if I'm looking for a low key place to watch the Bears game and I can eat some food and watch, like, I'm gonna watch the Lions game, but
sure,
right. And there's a thing to
same outcome
over like a long period of time. People that like want to watch the game but don't want to go to a sports bar or something will figure out like, they show the game. I mean, you're not going to, no one's going to be like, I want to go watch the Bears. Let's go to Beer Temple or whatever. That's not going to be the first thing people think, but there will be a group of people that already were coming here will come here more often probably.
Yeah, or people who want to like, oh, it's on. Let's go here. Let's do something. Let's have a conversation during the game. It's not like I need to be surrounded with people in jerseys and stuff like that because, you know, those other spots cater to that. They are going to do that better. And let me get to...
You did allow me to watch.
It does sound like
playoff.
Steve's talking about the Russian River production space.
You think?
It seems like that to me. As someone
Do
who's
they have
there
TVs?
recently. Inside, in like where you go to pick up beer, they do.
Oh.
It's just like you look at the beer wall and they're there. I mean, it was not a distraction.
Yeah, you know what? They did have some TVs when I was there at the tap room, but I was there before it opened, and they were just had like whatever.
They also have a sweet patio that's in California.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he was talking about.
That's right.
Patios in California are a big advantage over bars in Chicago.
I have an email from Ben. He says, "Hey Chris, the recent episode about early last call struck a chord. When he says early, he means like a couple months ago. I understand labor is tough and small businesses are juggling a million things, especially here in SoCal. I have not been to my favorite place locally as much since the pandemic because they closed so early. Several friends have stopped going altogether because they can't grab a pint after their late shift. Again, understand external factors, but I'm with you. 9 p.m. sucks. 5 out of 5 stars. He means bottle caps, I think, obviously. First time, very long time. OG Alpine Nelson forever. Ben. P.S. It was hilarious to hear about your San Diego exploits and mishaps and know the bartenders you were talking about that politely requested you to stop ordering beers at North Park when I got
yes, the most exciting brew in the country, Chris, was politely asked to not order beers.
Were you given a glass of water from a
Nope.
polite staff member?
No, they didn't do that. They were pretty amateur about how
it wasn't
they did
even, it wasn't even because you were overserved. You were just too East Coast for them.
Maybe. They probably thought I was... I mean, I
You've been
couldn't drive a
served.
car. Yeah, but I wasn't like
But they didn't give you
stumbling.
water?
That is... I was trying to tell someone else, like, that is the international sign for, like, take it easy.
Yeah.
If they just present you with a pint of water, like, I would have been like, okay, I get it. All right.
Ultimate nonverbal communication.
Yeah, it's like... But, like,
here's that pint.
No,
of
instead
water.
he had a manager come over and tell me too. Like he was such a wimp.
Well, you were vocally
Saying that he sucked.
displeased about his
That he was
service.
not a good bartender.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. There was 3 of us.
You
And
can
he
do
would
that.
be like, and one would be like, what do you guys want? And I'd be like, I'll have a IPA and and he would just walk away, bring back the one beer. Now what do you have? I'll have this. And then there'll be a third one. And walks away. Comes
Kill
back.
it.
Meantime, there's a line forming.
That's called hype, Chris.
Right. And it's just like, man, you suck.
My favorite event.
And then when he didn't give me a glass of water, even more proof. And it's like, you can't drink anymore. You guys are welcome to keep ordering, but he can't have any of your beer, is what they said. So I was like,
Just
okay.
'cause it wasn't because you were drunk. It's because you were mean.
I think it was because then I made sure we sat and had another round, and we just sat there. And we're fine. And then we left and continued our evening. It was I think it was still light out at that time. Anyway, okay, so that was the PS, and then he said PPS, nudge Matt and Steve to reboot Beer Download or get them back on the show, and then PPPS dust.
For real?
Yeah.
We did it.
See, there.
We've made
right
it.
there, I'm showing it to you. PPPS dust. So, thank you, Ben. 9 p.m., it sucks. It's hard, man. I mean, it's hard.
We're mandated.
Yeah.
We have to close by order of the neighborhood. We have to close
Earlier?
at 10.
Or always has been, or
We had to, in order for us to get a liquor license, we had to agree to close at 10
way back
p.m.
in the day?
Aren't you in
Yeah. Yeah,
manufacturing zoning? How did they have the jurisdiction over that?
Aldermanic prerogative. So basically, if you wanted a liquor license, your alderman had to sign off on it. And so as a part of that, we have a plan of operations. It also says that a food truck will not sit on the east-west streak of Kyler because it would be a nuisance, which is totally true. So that's why they always sit on the other
You're
street.
North South
deep
Street.
in a neighborhood.
We're deep, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's tricky.
But there's a lot of other tap rooms that are just, I think, used to be open
Sure.
later that are now
And-
not.
Sure.
And I think that's what
I
he's
think I know what he's
referring
talking
to.
about. Yeah, we wouldn't like if that's the thing. Like if our posted hours are the posted hours, you go to the end. Like you can't do that. That's again.
Well, he's
it's
talking
like,
about people who've pulled back because post-COVID, just breweries.
oh,
are
I
not
took it
open.
as like they were doing like, oh, there's nobody in here. Let's call last call.
No, I don't think that's what
it
he's
kinda-
talking about.
Oh, okay.
No, right. He was talking about how places
Yeah,
are just
places
closed.
he hasn't gone
He
back
called
to.
it
because they're
early
open
last
late
call
enough.
though.
Yeah.
In the letter,
That's,
which
I
to
got
me
the same
is
vibe as you, Kevin.
early
Oh,
last
okay.
call would be that your posted hours are till 10 o'clock and you're calling last call at 9 o'clock so that you can go home.
Oh,
And or there's no one there.
And so,
And- yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I get if
That's
that's what he was
early
saying.
last calls. No, that's not what he means. That's because he's talking about the recent episode about early last calls struck a chord, and he says he just talks about places that close early.
Okay.
We were talking about an unnamed place that might have been
That you
named
then
multiple
didn't name.
times.
It's also
that had a very early last call. Someone here at the table might have been there as well when there was an early last call one time at one of these places. But anyway,
People aren't staying out as late either. Like that's a real
yes,
thing.
that's true.
Yeah. So I think it's like it's a market thing. Like a lot of the long room is right by us, and there was a period of time where it was kind of like, where are the late night drinkers? And it is really creeping up. Like people aren't going out past midnight, and so then your later bars, Chicago, we're blessed to have 5 a.m. bars. Like, but those places are starting to see fewer and fewer people out drinking.
Oh yeah,
that
for
late at
sure.
night. So
For sure, they're staying at home.
And much like draft sales, like that ain't coming back. There's not going to be a moment where people are like, you know what I want less of? Sleep.
yeah.
I want.
Who wrote the last letter?
Ben.
Ben. I would encourage Ben and all of Ben's friends
I don't know if I agree with that. By the way,
that if they want
Really?
places to stay open later, like you just have there needs to be a market for it. So we need to make sure that they're encouraging their friends and more of their friends and get on Facebook or Threads and, talk about it and go out and have meetups at midnight, because otherwise it's just going to go away.
Yeah, I think if people have been drinking to the wee hours of the night for hundreds of years, that it's not just going to be gone forever. I just think it'll come back. It might be a long time.
I mean, the
but-
combination of like people, millennial and older, like just not staying out late, and then the generation behind us not drinking as much is, I don't know if they're going to be
It's
staying.
an economic indicator, at least for the next decade.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. I think I could see it
Maybe
being a decade.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can see it being longer. But
Well, we just have to teach our children that 5 a.m. bars are magical.
yeah, grown-ups stay out.
I mean,
late.
they are.
You need
There's
to
not-
experience the mixed emotions of seeing the sunrise.
Absolutely. I was just
Yeah.
going to say that of like, there's no better or worse feeling
Oh, yeah.
than walking out of a 5 a.m. bar that you're just like, oh no.
The birds are chirping. The sun is coming up.
Yeah.
You have to be to work in 3 hours.
It's like I've accomplished something and I've done I'm a derelict.
I've accomplished something not great.
Yeah.
I mean, we've stayed up after this podcast, be it here or in Bridgeport, way late before.
Yeah, but not in the last like 2 years.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, it was the last time I was here. I got home.
Like one. Yeah.
Yeah, but one,
I get
not
home at
5 a.m.
I
There
get-
were
Well, yeah,
times when you and
yeah.
I would stay up until like 4. There were
Yes.
birds chirping when you left my house a
Yes,
couple times.
that is true. That is true.
If I get home at 11:30, I'm like, I'm going to feel this tomorrow.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you do. I think it's time that we.
We covered it.
Yeah, I think we covered it. So
Good app.
yeah, thanks to our guests, our brother in dust, Mr. Eric Kapraun, Buster, not the sucker kid or whatever. He'll never be called that again. I promise.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
Same
Kevin
episode
Carey,
as
Kevin
in
P.
talking
Carey.
about
Sorry,
weird
Kevin
comings
Carey,
at the
yeah,
end.
sorry. Is that like? Did you have to like add is that for like your SAG rights or something? Like there was already a Kevin Carey, so you had to be Kevin P. Carey, like a Michael J. Fox type thing, or
I honestly don't know. I think I saw it one. It might have been around the time that Facebook was created. I'd seen somebody use their middle initial, and I was in college. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Our
that's cool.
friend Carl only refers to you as Kevin P. Carey. And so whenever I have to I'm not talking directly to you. For some reason now I do it too.
Yeah.
Kevin P. Carey.
Anything any fellows would like to say in closing? You don't have to. Just asking.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're very welcome.
Next time, I'd like 15 minutes for you guys to both talk about the quality of our hair.
All right. Well, we got
I'll write a
good
letter
show. We got a
about
good show next time. A little teaser. We're talking about the rise and fall of American wild ales, and we've got some pretty awesome people lined up for that one.
I believe the subtitles "What Happened" was.
Right. We got some in. We got Paul from Ale Apothecary. We got John Laffler. We may have a few other very interesting guests as well. So I'm excited for that next week. So we'll see you then.
All right.
So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again, 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 again.